afternoon, everyone. Uh, a very warm welcome to all of you who have joined with us today on our today's episode of Equity Edge, brought to you by Softlogic Stockbrokers. The topic for our discussion today is unlocking new growth horizons in the construction industry, which we believe to be a very timely and a very crucial topic for our country's growth. So, as all of us know, the construction sector plays a very pivotal role in the Sri Lankan economy. Pre pandemic, it contributed to about 8 to 10% of our GDP. However, due to challenging socioeconomic conditions, which prevailed afterwards, the contribution from construction we saw a gradual decrease, and by end of 2023, it had dropped to around 6.2%, and also marking a negative growth of minus 20.8% for the year. But the good news is, despite this setback, the construction industry is back again on that positive growth trajectory. We witnessed this in the first half of 2024, where the sector recorded approximately a 14.8% year-over-year growth and also contributed to about 7% to our GDP, where the country itself during the first half of 2024 grew by around 5% year-over-year. And also, just to add on to that, we know the construction sector PMI is also having a positive growth, because over the past few months, we've seen the index value of the construction PMI had been hovering above 50 mark, which is a very good news for the sector. And we believe this growth could be further supported. I mean, the construction sector growth in the future could be further supported by the presently prevailing low interest rate regime, where the home builders market, the private sector projects could actually see a probable bounce back going forward amidst this low interest rates. And additionally, another positive factor to note is we know that Sri Lanka is steadily progressing in terms of resolving our external debt restructuring plan. And once this is concluded, Sri Lanka is much likely to witness a upgrade in our sovereign rating, which is very much positive for the entire country as a whole. And we expect to see this by early next year. And in particular, if you look at construction sector, this rating upgrade could definitely be a game changer and could attract many new funding lines, bilateral, multilateral funding lines towards our infrastructure projects. And also, this will pave the way to actually recommence some of these stalled large ticket developments, which had been currently, at a standstill. So, with all these being said, I think let's move on to our discussion for today. So we have with us one of our country's leading construction sector companies. So the company is not only doing construction, but they have diversified into many other related avenues as well to navigate any challenging situations in a very, very positive manner. So today with us, we have Access Engineering PLC, and we are joined by Mr. Christopher Joshua, the Executive Vice Chairman of Access Engineering, as well as Mr. Shanaka Fernando, the Senior Manager of Corporate Business Development at Access Engineering. So very good afternoon to you, gentlemen, and thank you so much for joining with us today. So
thank you very much for inviting us. It's a pleasure to be on this panel.
Thank you, Mr. Joshua. Yes, so without any delay, so let's start the proceedings for the day. So we would like to initially invite Mr. Shanaka to present a company update on Access Engineering, and then we would be moving over to our discussion with Mr. Joshua, which would be moderated by Natashi. So let me hand it over to you, Shanaka, to present the company update. So Shanaka, it's over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is the corporate presentation we have. The vision of Access Engineering is to be the foremost Sri Lankan business enterprise in value engineering. and the mission is to meet challenges in the development of multi-sector civil engineering projects, providing innovative solutions while developing long-term progressive relationships with all our stakeholders. From an accreditation perspective, Access Engineering has the highest accreditation across the most number of disciplines among any across all Sri Lankan business construction companies. As you can see in this table, we have the highest accreditation across 9 engineering disciplines. What it means is that Access Engineering can take on work without any cap or without any limit on the volume or the value of work that we could undertake in a construction project. These are the certifications and or the listings and the memberships we have. The first four are basically, or the first five are basically industry specific certifications, with the latest addition being this National Academy of Sciences Sri Lanka, where our very own idea nest, or which we call the innovation hub, will be hosting the National Academy of Sciences Sri Lanka going forward. The business sectors, primarily Access Engineering as the parent company and all the subsidiaries operate across 6 different business segments, starting from civil engineering, where Access Engineering as a parent company is the core business is civil engineering. In addition to that, we also have Access Check JV Private Limited, which we incorporated in 2021 for the purpose of undertaking the construction of the East Container Terminal. This East Container Terminal project is the largest project ever awarded to a local company-led joint venture, where Access Engineering owns 51% of the company. And AEL East Africa was incorporated for the purpose of undertaking construction in the Republic of Kenya, where under this company, we completed the T-Mall flyover and also 5 footbridges in Kenya. The projects were all completed and successfully handed over to the Kenya National Highway Authority. Access Projects Private Limited is engaged in the leisure-related building construction. From a material production perspective, Access Engineering has diversified in 2011, just before the initial public offering, we diversified into this material production. And from then onwards, up to date, we have been expanding with year-on-year growth rate, double-digit growth rates. Primarily, we are into asphalt production, ready-mix concrete production, crusher operations, quarry operations, M-sand production, and yard paving. In terms of asphalt operation, we are currently the market leader in asphalt production in Sri Lanka, and we are also one of the key players in the ready-mix concrete production in Sri Lanka. Lanka AAC Private Limited is again a 100% owned subsidiary of Access Engineering, which is currently engaged in the production of
50% Shanaka, 50% subsidiary, Lanka AAC.
I'm sorry, yeah. 50% owned subsidiary, which is currently engaged in the production of aerated autoclave concrete blocks. The ZPMC under mechanical engineering, which is our third business vertical, ZPMC Lanka is involved in the commission, repair, and maintenance of port machinery. This company provides services to both local ports as well as overseas ports. The fourth business vertical is real estate and office and condominium mainly. Real estate, we have 2 different business segments. One is office and condominium, and the other one is industrial park, warehousing, and logistics. So under office and condominium, we have 6 different companies, starting with Access Realties, which is the owner and the managing agent of Access Tower 1, which is a 130,000 square feet grade A office space provider. Access Realities 2 Private Limited is the owner and the managing agent of Access Tower 2, which is a 200,000 square feet, which is the owner of 200,000 square feet of office space. Blue Star Realty Private Limited was the developer of Capital Heights Rajagiriya, which is a 242 unit luxury condominium development. And this is completed, the development is completed, and deeds have been successfully transferred to the apartment buyers. Harbour Village Private Limited is the developer of Marina Square, Uptown Colombo, a 1,088 apartment development, and Sri Lanka's largest harbourfront mixed development. Access Engineer or AEL and UDA JV is the developer of a public car park facility at Union Place. This development was carried out on a design, build, finance, operate, and transfer basis. The development encompasses 285 parking spaces and over 20,000 square feet of rentable commercial space. ARL Elevate is the operator of the gymnasium of Access Tower 2. Then under real estate, we are also heavily engaged in industrial park, warehousing and logistics, where we have three distinct companies. Access Logistics Private Limited is the developer. Access Logistics Park Ekala Private Limited is the developer of export greenfield facility at Ekala, whereas WUS Logistics is the developer of a 400,000 square feet integrated logistics park at Kimbulapitia. Access Logistics Private Limited is also engaged in the warehousing and logistics sector. Under the automobile sector, we have two companies, Satsuma Motors PLC, which is the authorized distributor for Isuzu in Sri Lanka, and Access Motors Private Limited, which is the authorized distributor for Jaguar and Land Rover in Sri Lanka. Moving forward, these are some of the civil engineering projects that are currently in progress. The West Container Terminal, which is undertaken by the Adani Ports of India, Access Engineering currently is carrying out work under two different packages, where we are engaged in the material supply as well as some civil construction work. This project is currently on schedule and will be completed by mid next year. The scope of work we have undertaken and we have signed up for the moment. The East Container Terminal is a joint venture, is developed in joint partnership with China Hub Engineering Company, where Access Engineering is the main contractor, and we have ongoing work there for the next 2 years. The Central Expressway project, which is the third section of the Central Express project that is currently ongoing, Access Engineering is doing rock blasting work there, and this is expected to be completed. The current scope of work is expected to be completed next year. Then the Japanese Cultural Center. This is a Japanese funded project where Access Engineering is engaged in the construction of a preschool and a cultural center, and the project is expected to be completed by end of this year. The Elliott Place Housing Project is a public-private partnership undertaken with the Urban Development Authority for the construction or the development of 400 semi-luxury condominium housing units, and the remaining work will go on for the next 2.5 years. Kohuala flyover project was open for traffic recently, and there is a little bit of work ongoing there, which we hope to complete by end of the year. Nitambua Pasala Road project involves the widening of the Nitambua Pasala Road, where the ongoing work scope will be completed by end of next year, 2025. Gatambi flyover, currently the work is ongoing and is geared to be completed in the next 18 months to 24 months. I-Roads project involves the rehabilitation of rural roads in the Gampaha district, with the current work scope to be completed by end of this year or early next year. The Bandaranaike International Airport Phase 2 project, Access Engineering did some work, did all the ground improvement work and the piling work, and currently we are engaged in doing identified critical works, and that work will be completed during in the current financial year, with scope for further work addition. Moving on to the sector outlooks, civil engineering sector. Civil engineering sector of Access Engineering Group has a very healthy order book spanning for the next 2 to 2.5 years, with confirmed orders in hand. The current scope of work, or the mix of funding from a funding perspective, the existing projects that are undertaken by Access Engineering is funded by a mix of multilateral, bilateral, foreign funded, and private and government of GOSL treasury funded projects. We have only one treasury funded project ongoing at the moment. And if you look at the mix of projects, the projects span across vital sectors of the economy, ranging from port operations, roads and highways, buildings and piling, aviation and flyovers. Material production, we have at the moment, we have 25 production plants operating right across the country, with seven asphalt plants, 5 ready-mix concrete plants, 3 crusher plants, 7 quarries, 2 sand manufactured sand production plants, and 1 yard paving plant, which is currently in operation at the Port of Colombo. Like I told you earlier, we are the market leader in asphalt production, where we hold a significant market share, and we are also a leading provider of ready-mix concrete in Sri Lanka. The mechanical engineering sector, outlook is very positive with opportunities for further expansion. Currently, we are maintaining port machinery at the Port of Colombo as well as the Hambantota International Port, while also carrying out ongoing repair and maintenance work in overseas ports. In addition to that, there are significant opportunities for further expansion with the commencement of commercial operation at both the East Container Terminal and the West Container Terminal. With the West Container Terminal with an annual capacity of 3.2 million TEUs and the East Container Terminal with a capacity of 3 million TEUs, opportunities for business expansion and growth in these two terminals would be significant. From the real estate sector, looking at the outlook of the office and condominium, we have Marina Square Uptown Colombo, which is Sri Lanka's largest single-phase harbourfront mixed development currently ongoing. We have sold over 52% of the apartments, and we are very well geared for a completion of the project by December 2025, with a view to hand over the sold apartments to the buyers commencing 2026. Then we also have 330,000 square feet of grade A rentable office space at Access Tower 1 and Access Tower 2, which is almost 100% occupied. We also have, under this sector, we also have 200,000 square feet of rentable office and retail space at Marina Square Uptown Colombo and the public car park facility at Union Place. These are some of the pictures of the companies that are engaged in office and condominium. Moving on to the industrial park, warehousing and logistics sector, we have two companies that are currently in operation. First is the export greenfield facility at Ekala. This project was undertaken by Access Engineering on a design, build, finance, own, operate and transfer basis on a land that was taken by
not transfer basis, own
basis on a land that was taken from the Urban Development Authority on a 50-year lease term. The facility includes 700,000 square feet of integrated warehousing and logistics space and 32,000 square feet of grade A premium office space. In addition to that, the facility also has staff accommodation, medical and recreational facilities, and a community park. We have already signed the lease agreement for 15 years. And this facility offers state-of-the-art mechanical and electrical services with logistics and warehouse facilities for cargo supply, value addition, and storage. Then moving on to the second facility, which is an integrated logistics park at Kimbulapitia. This is South Asia's largest single-roof warehouse. This is built on a 20-acre land with the building footprint being 9 acres. There is also additional 20 acres of land with all facilities installed for further development. The built facility has 430,000 square feet of integrated warehousing and logistics space and 30,000 square feet of grade A premium office space. The lease agreement is already signed for 5 years. These are the two logistics facilities we have. Moving on to the sector outlook of the automobile sector, we are very hopeful that the import ban on commercial vehicles will be lifted towards end of this year, and there will be significant increases in the spare part and workshop revenue as we have seen in the past, and that momentum will continue into the future. From a research and development perspective, Access Engineering has its own innovation hub, which is themed Idea Nest, to further innovation in civil and mechanical engineering applications and sciences. We launched this facility in 2020-2021 financial year. The company also has a fully fledged engineering design department, which is accredited by the Institute of Engineers of Sri Lanka to train engineers for their charter. The research initiatives undertaken in the past by under the leadership of Innovation Hub includes the research carried out in joint partnership with the University of Muratua, supported by the University of Oxford and Cambridge, to promote fiber optic monitoring technology in Sri Lanka. And starting this month, Idea Nest will also be hosting the National Academy of Sciences in Sri Lanka going forward. Sustainability. From a corporate social responsibility perspective, Access Engineering has been engaged with a lot of CSR projects from the start of operations, business operations, even before going public. Mainly, we have this CSR team called More Than Bricks and Steel, where we have 4 identified different pillars: local community development, industry advancement, human capacity development, and environmental stewardship. So under each of these pillars, there are specific programs we undertake. For example, the local community development, under that we have a program called Enhance the Future, where we are engaged in the development of school infrastructure in rural schools. We also do fabrication and donation of school desks and chairs. For industry advancement, we have a program called the Visal Puhunu Balakaya, which provides vocational training programs. We also have Idea Nest, the Innovation Hub, and we are hosting the National Academy of Sciences of Sri Lanka going forward. From a human capital development perspective, we do a lot of mentoring programs for the undergraduates, and we continue to provide annual internships for undergraduates. From environmental stewardship, we have the ongoing tree planting program, Husma Denaturu, and we are also engaged with the business and biodiversity platform of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce in the restoration of rainforests in Sri Lanka. We have also done a lot of e-waste collection programs with other industry participants. To give a brief snapshot of the financial performance, this is the group revenue and the profit before tax since going public from 2011-12 onwards to 2023-24. You could see that despite all the challenges that the country and the company has faced in the past 3 years, we have been able to record the highest profit before tax at group level in the last 3 years, well over 4 billion LKR. From a earnings per share, dividend per share, and the net asset per share perspective, since listing in 2011-2012 financial year, the net asset per share has been continuously growing at a very steady pace, adding significant value to all the shareholders. And by the end of 31st March 2024, it was well over 35 rupees. Thank you.
Yes, so thank you, Ms. Shanaka, for that insightful presentation about Access Engineering's current context. So now I would like to invite Mr. Joshua to proceed with our webinar discussion. And also a quick reminder for the audience. So once we are done with this discussion, the platform will be open for you to drop any questions you have. Thank you. So to proceed with the discussion, first of all, let's discuss about the funding lines of Access Engineering projects. So Mr. Joshua, are most of the construction related projects funded by foreign funded lines, and what percentage of your order book actually relies on treasury funding?
Yes, so currently we have quite a healthy order book like what Shanaka presented. If you put a monetary value to it, we have almost 90 billion worth of works in hand. That is in 2 components. About out of that, 50 billion to be executed by Access Engineering, and the balance 40 billion work in hand is to be executed through the joint venture with China Harbour. So the funding composition for this would be foreign funded. About 30% of the project is bilateral and multilateral foreign funded projects. Then about another 30% is foreign client funded. For example, when I say foreign client funded, like Adani Ports, it's a foreign client, of course, investment in Sri Lanka, and the client is funding, so there is no external funding source. Then the Japanese Cultural Center, for example, it's funded by a Japanese grant. So those are not bilateral or multilateral, but they are project-specific funding by the grant is by philanthropies, and the Adani project is by Adani themselves. They have raised the funding through US government debt and all that. So that's part of the funding. Then we have also another category where about 20% is from local client funding. For example, airport aviation is funding through airport aviation itself. Sri Lanka Ports Authority projects are funded through Sri Lanka Ports Authority itself. For example, the East Container Terminal is funded by SLPA. So there is no treasury funding or government of Sri Lanka funding. So that funding line is also secured. And then if you talk about the treasury funding exposure for access engineering, it's about between 10 to 15% currently.
Yes, so that's a mix of various different funding lines.
Yes.
So we saw that Mr. Shanaka was mentioning about the existing projects. Are there
Yes.
any new projects that are likely to be added to Access Engineering's order book? And so when talking about these new projects, do you actually view Port City as a potential growth hub for the construction industry as a whole?
Well, Port City eventually it will be, but in the meantime, there are current add-ons itself. For example, the port terminals, the East Terminal is getting built in one phase, but the West Terminal where Adani is building, they're phasing it out. So they'll initially open 800 meters, then they'll go up to maybe 1,000 meters, then they'll go up to the full 1,200 meters. So there is potential for further expansion in that work itself. The Port City question is, of course, the investment has to come in. The infrastructure is currently being built. Once the investment comes in, and then thereafter, to get a design, build, or even a procurement or EPC project in Port City, the time horizon would be about 2.5 years even from now. So Port City will be more in the horizon in the medium term.
Right. So thank you, Mr. Joshua. So when talking about these foreign funding lines, we know Japan is one of the countries that funds Sri Lanka's projects. And currently we saw Japan has resumed like 11 stored projects in Sri Lanka.
Yes.
How do you expect this to materialize for Access Engineering? So Ms. Shanaka was mentioning about this Access Engineering securing a job at Bandar Naik International Airport Terminal 2. So,
Yes.
is the company likely to get any more construction work at the airport?
Well, I can say that we are very well placed because when by the way, the Colombo Airport expansion project originally, which was about a $650 million project, we were active contractor there. We did all the groundwork, the piling, and of course some of the other construction work, including the bridges to the terminal, roadways and bridges to the terminal. So of course the project was stalled and cancelled, and now a new tender has been called with Japan pledging funding again to that same tune. So we believe that since we are already engaged there carrying out work, we know the place around, we are already recognized by the Japan airport consultants as a capable contractor who could deliver. So we believe that we have a very good advantage. So that project the tender has already been called. Of course, the main contractor has to be Japanese, or Japanese origin contractor. So we will have to work as an associate or subcontractor when the project is awarded.
All right. So now let's move towards an interesting segment of Access Engineering. So that's about the rental income segment. So could you explain on the rental income segment's exposure through the two logistics parks? How does this monthly rental gets accounted on your books? Like, is there a fixed exchange rate you have agreed on with the tenants to pay in dollar terms? Or is it like a fixed rental income in rupee terms that gets translated into dollars?
Both rental agreements have been signed in US dollars because basically they are both 100% exports. Both logistics parks are doing 100% exports. So it was in the interest of the tenant and the interest of the lessor that we sign it in dollars, because we didn't want to have any carry any risk of fluctuation. So we get paid in dollars into our NRFC accounts, and then so where it is up to us to of course on the prevailing central bank regulations to convert it into the rupees when we need it.
All right, so that gets paid in dollar terms. So that would be interesting to know about the net impact for Access Engineering from the exchange rate, because we know currently Access imports raw materials and also generates rental income in dollar terms. So, what is the net impact as of now? Because we have seen that the rupee has appreciated so far, but
Yep.
with a probable devaluation over the medium term, how would this impact be going forward, especially when you start importing vehicles?
So two things. One thing is, of course, on the income to excess engineering, of course, we don't carry exchange risk because we get paid in dollars. And fortunately for us, the developments have been made when, of course, partly when there was stable currency, stable currency exchange rate, and of course, part of which is when the currency was depreciated and parity rate increased. So we have a good average on. So we currently we have not had any effect on the exchange rate. Then to mitigate our imports, we as a discipline keep around, to suffice to our working capital, an amount of, sometimes roughly between $5 to $6 million in dollars itself, not to carry an exchange risk in our imports. So that's the way we mitigate it, because we are not into this currency speculation or taking that risk into the account. But then of course, some contracts, the price escalation formula is built in, so we don't carry that risk also, because if a fluctuation takes place, then of course the escalation formula will compensate to a certain extent whatever that fluctuation is. So that is that. Then for the vehicle business, of course, there are standalone companies, such as Motors and Axis Motors. So that of course will be at that particular time, and that fluctuation will be there. But what has happened with the vehicle restrictions is these two companies have done very well with the workshop and spare part business. Significant improvements have been seen, and you will see from even results going forward that these two companies are now doing very well.
All right, so with that, shall we talk about the automobile segment more, about about the segment's future? Like, is luxury vehicles or commercial vehicles the main contributor to the segment's revenue? And if so, like, how's the proposed vehicle importation ban getting lifted in a staggered base affect Access Engineering's earnings on a timely mode, like considering luxury vehicles or commercial vehicles being the main player?
So basically, by far, the commercial vehicle segment has been the biggest contributor to that sector. Satosa Motors vehicle, basically. Isuzu has about 65% market share in the new truck segment. So the spare parts sales are expanding because from the reconditioned segment, Isuzu has about 80% market share. Japanese trucks. If you see in any trucks, old trucks, it is Isuzu. So that spare parts, so that sustainability has stepped in very well, and that business is growing. So that looks very well. Then the import restrictions first will be lifted for the commercial vehicles. So that will trigger in well for Satosa Motors. Luxury vehicles, of course, we don't see import restrictions being lifted in the near future, because I think the country has many other issues to deal with first before relaxing exchange control regulations for importing of luxury vehicles. But that business is it didn't contribute even in the past, and it didn't make any substantial contribution to the bottom line, although there was a big value in the brand name. But it's with the spare parts and workshop revenue, that business also is performing relatively well.
So the vehicle ban getting lifted on commercial vehicles over the near term would be a positive factor.
The big positive factor, because I mean, most of the, as I told you, that in that segment, brand new trucks, Sasuza Motors has more than 65% market share. So they have dedicated fleet owners who only buy this particular brand of truck. Because Isuzu is, market leader in 35 countries, so it's quite a famous brand for trucks. So that getting lifted, yes, because these owners are also in the, we have seen that the industries they are in are also growing industries, despite the crisis, especially in the food, transportation and logistics. That business has been growing, and that at least growing means relatively stable, and in compared to the other businesses which have been very badly affected. So So we see this. We already we have a lot of inquiries from all these people. When the brand is lifted, for them to maybe refleet refleet fleets, and so that looks very interesting, especially for the commercial sector.
Yes. So thank you, Ms. Joshua. So now let's talk about the key highlighting mixed development project of Access Engineering, the Marina Scar project. So how has the demand flow been so far for the residential and commercial space?
Well, of course, the residential space, as Shanaka presented, we have sold more than 50%. Even during the crisis period, we have been selling apartments. Of course, they have been now priced according to the current market situation and conditions. So we are very happy with the offtake. We are not very aggressive in the sales effort because we want to ride the period of uncertainty in the market firstly, and also from strategy perspective, we have taken stock of what's available in the market, what new developments are coming in, what are in line with our development, and we are quite comfortable in the position where we are, where Marina Square is concerned. We are in a very good location. We are doing an excellent development, and we believe that we are very well placed there.
All right. So, also, when talking about the container terminals, we know West Container Terminal and East Container Terminal are some of the key projects under the construction segment. And Access Engineering has a 51% stake at East Container Terminal, as Ms. Shanaka was mentioning. And so, how would the revenue generation be from East Container Terminal, and also how would West Container Terminal drive Access Engineering's future revenue growth?
Well, as I told you, it's in the order book. Whenever the works gets executed, it's added on to the revenue. In the East Container Terminal, it's a separate company, as we told you, and for taxation purposes, we bring only the net revenue into the group, Access Engineering Group. Otherwise, there is this SSEL, the SSEL, which gets added on at every level. So we have structured it accordingly that the minimum SSEL effect is there for that revenue, for the East Terminal revenue. So whenever the work is executed, it is added into the revenue. And as I told you, in the West Container Terminal, there is also some future work to be done too.
All right. So overall, we looked at various kinds of projects Access Engineering is involved with and talked about many positive factors. So now let's look at the flip side as well. Like, what are the main challenges and obstacles in the construction industry as a whole, and are those applicable for Access Engineering as well?
Well, of course, right now we will not take it in as a construction industry in isolation, because I think the challenges are national. The whole country is facing the challenges. So basically, we look at stability, we look at consistency in policy, in whatever they do, in whatever the government does, and of course, the equal playing field. Then the positive factor is, if all these things work well, and transparency increases, competition increases, and the utilization of local resource and productivity is looked into in that detail, that's a benefit definitely for the local construction industry. One thing is for sure, the government has to have the required tax revenue to meet the debt sustainability, debt repayments when you start repaying debt. So in order to do that, they will have to have some economic growth. That's the only way you can increase the tax base. So in that, there has to be some investments. If you're thinking of increasing tourism to 3.5 million or up to even 5 million tourists coming into the country, the infrastructure has to be developed to cater for that. The airport has to be developed, the roads have to be developed, the rest of the infrastructure, including the tourism infrastructure for that matter, goods transportation, all that. So all that will have a positive effect. So more than so we if you ask me, there can't be a negative side. The whole country has seen the negative side already. So in this growth challenge the country has, the construction industry and the transportation industry, logistics, industrial park warehousing is going to be a major player and a major contributor if the country has to grow.
Right. So thank you so much, Mr. Joshua, for all the information you shared with us today in detail. So now the platform is open for the audience to drop in their questions via our chat box. So let's look into the questions from the audience. So there's a question like how fast will the Bandar International Airport project start and what is the role Axis will play? So I think Ms. Shanaka explained very well that by the end of this financial year, it will be completed. And the question also continues to ask Central Expressway, what is the status timeline, any new areas which Axis is looking at currently?
Just to confirm the Bandaranaike International Airport, the current work we are doing will be finished by maybe the end of this financial year. We are doing, but the airport, the big expansion project where the tender has just been called, that is the project which was cancelled where the Taisei was the main contractor. That's about a $650 million project. So that the tender has just been called. So by the time that tender is awarded, that is for the building the building the entire terminal. That work is like, so the tender just called means it's closing, awarding, and mobilizing would be maybe towards the mid or the third half of next year. So that is on the Bandaranaike International Airport expansion project, the bigger project. Then on the Central Expressway project, what currently the government is funding is section from Potuhara to Rambukkana. That is now the Central Expressway terminates in Kurunegala. Potuhara is just before Kurunegala. This is what you call the Kandy Expressway. That means that you come out of Potuhara and then go to Rambukkana, and from Rambukkana you are linked to Galagedara. That is what you call the Kandy connection. So one stage is from Potuhara to Rambukkana. The second stage is from Rambukkana to Galagedara. Rambukkana to Galagedara, it has not started even. So it's a long way out to get from Rambukkana to Galagedara, but from Potuhara to Rambukkana only, that is the section where some contractors are doing. We are part of. We are also doing a part of that work, which was presented by Shanaka. So the government is pretty focused in getting at least this section done, and they have set a deadline to themselves to finish this section from Potuhara to Rambukkana by I think before the end of next year.
All right. So there's another question. How is revenue recognized from the Marina Scar project? Is it based on percentage completion or will revenue be recognized at the time of apartment handover?
At the time of apartment handover, it is not recognized as of now. Now that revenue is not recognized in our accounts.
All right. Thank you. And there's another question. What was the reason for the steep increase in revenue during financial year 2022?
Steep increase in revenue. It's basically the construction order book. The construction order book, especially the government-funded projects, which was stalled after, especially COVID, and after that, the economic crisis.
All right, thank you. And moving on, can you provide an overview of your environmental and sustainability efforts, initiatives for fair labor practices and worker safety, and the targets for reducing carbon emissions?
Okay, so first of all, fair labor practices. Yes, we consider us to be a preferred and model employer where employment is concerned. So one of our KPIs is the worker safety in every one of our projects. So it is the highest factor which we consider first in any project, worker safety, and that KPI is strictly monitored, and we are performing very well on that KPI. We have absolutely no accidents, more or less. So we take all precautions for that, of course, safety and training and that's part of our philosophy, because we have to look after our people. We want them to go home at the end of the day, after working, they're working hard, and they have to get back to their loved ones. So that's the policy we advocate and that we practice throughout. Then on the environmental effort, we have not set goals as such, how much we will contribute to reduce the carbon footprint. But what we do is, of course, it's two ways. One thing is we increase productivity and minimize waste at every level. In our asphalt, Shanaka mentioned that in his presentation that we are the leading asphalt producer and supplier in this country. We have more than 65% market share. How we achieve and sustain this because it's a commodity. It's a commodity. How do we, such a big company, be the market leader in asphalt? Maybe 300, 400 contractors buy asphalt from us. The reason is the productivity is at its highest level. From the efficiency in transportation, it's almost a logistics business when it comes to transportation. Every day we have more than 400 trucks on the road carrying asphalt to all these customers, in and out, quarry material and all that. So that is optimized, fully optimized. If I go into details, this is going to take a long time, but if anybody is interested, they can ask me. I can tell you in what detail we optimize. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So that is done. Secondly, we recycle everything, even that means that our quarry dust or ash is manufactured sand. That's how we venture into manufactured sand. We capture that also. We don't allow that also to go out. And so we have those measures in, and of course the general disciplines as the trucks going in and out will go through a waterway to ensure that the dust particles are not taken in and out. Everything is covered. You will never see a single load of asphalt with in India naked eye. No, everything is covered. There is nothing. There will be hardly any spillage. So that type of precaution as a practice we take. So that's as a responsible contractor or a responsible corporate citizen, we have to do that. So we do that at every level. Then of course, targets for the carbon reduction in the carbon footprints. Of course, with the e-waste and with our tree planting, there's calculations made. I don't have exactly. Maybe we can share it with you. The tree planting campaign is basically it is a meaningful and sustained effort by us. It is not for the sake of just planting a few trees. We have been planting. Of course, for every tree, when we are doing an infrastructure project, if a tree is cut, we'll ensure that more than 10 are planted. So our current, if somebody is interested, they can come visit us. We have, I think, planted more than 70,000 trees in this country, more than 70,000 trees. And that's ongoing. At every project site, it's ongoing.
Yeah, so that's quite interesting. And also, there's another question asking, like, Access Engineering, does Access Engineering have any foreign projects that are underway?
So basically, yeah. So we have done some projects in Kenya, which Shanaka mentioned, successfully completed. They were good projects. We did some work in Papua New Guinea. Currently, we are invited for a project in Fiji. So our mandate is that we still have sufficient work locally. If you see our order book, if you see our work volume. So, and what is our competitive advantage to go and work elsewhere? If my margins are good in the local market, I don't want to sacrifice my margins in the local market and go do an overseas project. Because what is another foreign contractor might do the local work. So basically this. We can go if we are pressed to. We can go. We are invited. In fact, especially the foreign contractors who work with us, invite us because they know our efficiencies and productivity, and of course the resources we have, especially the talented human resources we have. So we are invited. In fact, the Kenya job was the local Spanish contractor who worked with us locally took us to Kenya. The Spanish government funded a project. They said, no, they are the ideal contractor to do this, and it was unsuccessful. So we have similar opportunities. So we take it case by case. And if somebody asks me, do we have a drive to go overseas? Right now, there is no unique advantage for us to do it. There is no real necessity for us to do it. So if the necessity arises, yeah, we'll certainly look at it seriously.
Thank you. And moving on, what's the expected incremental annual rental income in dollar terms from the new logistics parks?
Currently, of course, the rate will escalate over time. Currently, from the two logistics parks, our annual rental income is about $7.5 million.
All right. So that marks the end of the questions from the audience. So, any final remarks that we can have?
So we are quite, positive with, of course, there were plenty of challenges the country was faced with during the past year. So we have hopefully challenged the challenges. You can see from our results, we have challenged the challenges and I think come out quite well during this critical period. So we are all committed to, of course, good governance, positive steps in the right direction. So if that is going to be the mandate in the future, then the future looks very promising for all of us and we are looking forward to it. So then thank you very much, Natashini and Shadini, for inviting us and hosting this webinar. I hope it was useful for the people who joined.
Thank you, Mr. Joshua. Just a final question from me before we conclude our session.
Yes.
So just want to hear your thoughts. What is your future expectation of Sri Lanka's construction sector? I mean, a sector as a whole, not only access engineering. What can you foresee in the upcoming quarters or upcoming years for Sri Lanka's construction sector?
So basically, Sri Lanka has hit the rock bottom. So you don't have, I don't have to explain any further on that. So we all are looking for a way forward. The whole country is looking for a way forward. So hopefully there will be lessons learned from the past. If there are no lessons learned from the past, that's a huge fundamental mistake we are going to make. If the lessons learned from the past are really learned, then the local construction industry is going to have a tremendous opportunity. Why I say this is that from a capability perspective, the local construction industry can build anything. I mean, we have built whatever the biggest projects in the country we have already built, including maybe and there are also many other capable contractors locally. The advantage of building any public infrastructure locally is it's much cheaper. How much cheaper? You will be shocked if I mention it's very much cheaper. The resources are local. The financing is local. If you're constructing a road, 70% of the local raw material is also local, or 80% of the raw material, including the labor. So it adds totally into the local economy. So if you want to grow the local economy, if that is the intention, we have to grow the local economy. So the local construction industry is going to have a huge opportunity because we will not see these bilateral projects where foreign contractors come and do contracts at exorbitant costs. And I think that is the result of what the result is where we are today, So if that is the lesson learned, then the potential for the local construction industry is tremendous. And I think it's a lesson learned. I firmly believe it's a lesson learned. So, so going forward, when the country gathers momentum, we have to have some growth for the debt sustainability. If we have no growth, we can't sustain our debt. We will default again. So construction is going to play a vital role in this growth strategy as a major contributor to the GDP. And the local construction industry is obviously going to play a significant role there.
Thank you, Mr. Joshua. It's actually you said it all. So we hope the construction sector contribution improves gradually. So we are coming from 6%, 7% levels. Hopefully we'll touch that 10 plus percentage going forward once we are actually all sorted. I mean, we are getting sorted. Hopefully we will move up there once again. So I think with that, we can conclude our session for today. We've taken a little bit of time extra as well. So would like to say thank you to Mr. Joshua, the Executive Vice Chairman of Access Engineering, for joining with us today, and also to Mr. Shanaka also for that insightful presentation which he shared with us. Thank you so much. And also to our audience, thank you so much for joining with us today. So this brings the end to our session on construction sector and access engineering. Hope to meet all of you all once again from another episode of Equity Edge by Softlogic Stockbrokers. Till then, thank you very much and have a safe day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.